Hello, everyone. This is the first recorded YJS community meeting. And today we only have Nik Graf, who I asked to join to present us his application, Serenity Notes, which is an end-to-end encrypted Google Docs alternative, really. And he made it open source, backend and the front end. And he has a lot to share. And I'm really happy that he agreed to just show off his application. We want to put this recording as all following YJS community meetings. We want to put these recordings on YouTube so others can learn from it and maybe reproduce and reuse his stuff. All right, Nik, you want to do your quick self-introduction?
Yeah, sure. Hey, I'm Nik. I worked with Kevin, was it like roughly 2 years ago, on a project creating an editor with YJS. It was Postmirror based, and yeah, it was a lot of fun, and even did some contributions to YJS back then. And yeah, when after using YJS and learning more about CRDTs, or like I learned about CRDTs before, and YJS was the perfect project for me to get into it. Like I realized that you could combine CRDTs only need clients to resolve the data. You can do it on a server, which a lot of people do, and it makes sense. But yeah, you can do it on a client, and that means you can end-to-end encrypt data. And that got me to the idea to actually work on this, and then it took several months to explore end-to-end encryption and what are the options and so on, and got deep into the encryption space, and yeah, created Serenity Notes, and yeah, that's about me. And in general, I work a lot. Like I'm basically what you describe as full stack developer. I co-founded startups in my early 20s, and then in the last couple of years did a lot of consulting, React, GraphQL, and now dedicating a lot of my time to Serenity Notes.
Wow, that's so sweet. So encrypted nodes, this is really something that I didn't think about when I started the YJS project. And I'm really happy that you picked up this this idea to, combine different technologies and, build an end-to-end encrypted backend for YJS. It's insane. It's insanely cool. Do you want to tell us a bit about the technology you use?
Yeah, sure. So I use a technology called Ohm. By the way, I could share my screen, then I can actually show a little bit. So obviously I'm using, can you see the screen?
Yeah.
Yeah. So obviously I'm using YJS in combination with Postmirror, which is the editor. By the way, like to give you a sneak peek, this is, let me actually, I will give you a brief demo of the application, or like parts of it, so you get some a gut feeling of like what it is about. So for example, here is an iOS client, and here's a macOS client. And what I already previously did is I set up Nik and Kevin to be contacts. So these are two different user accounts. They have different user IDs. And what I already did is Nik added Kevin as a collaborator, and they both basically looking at the same node. Right now it's still rather simple, but I'm adding a lot more features like links, bidirectional links between nodes and so on. But there's already to-dos and checklists. And yeah, basically then they can collaborate, and everyone can add things, remove things. So we also want to do an ask me anything at the end, and it could be real-time sync. I haven't done this yet. There's a still like 3-4 second delay. And also right now, if the app is going in the background, it's not fetching, it's basically refetching when it's live. But these are things that I'm working on to improve and so on. And yeah, and as you can see, people can collaborate and they can make headlines and hello world and paragraphs, bold, italic. This is important. And then you can see how they can collaborate. And because it's YJS and this CRDD, it basically resolves really well. And yeah, sometimes.
Can you show us how you produce a conflict? Like, I think it should be really easy because of the delay.
Let's do test and yada, and then you can see this resolved here, and then when this is going in the foreground, it's basically resolving, and it's adding it in the end. Okay, do one more, 1 and 2. And there's apparently something wrong right now.
I mean, it's still
yeah,
it's still
demo effect. Awesome.
Demo effect, right?
Yeah.
When did you you published it not that long ago, right? From my experience, it was working really smoothly.
Good to hear.
What I liked about the application was that it starts so fast. Like I would use this app over Evernote or anything else because it loads in less than a second, which is like a big deal for me if I want to take a note.
Yeah.
And it's called Rative and it's end-to-end encrypted.
Yeah.
So
I'm actually a little bit surprised that it's that fast because I'm using React Native and also like React Native for macOS. And soon gonna work on the Windows version. And yeah, I was a little bit concerned, like, can React Native boot up that fast? And I mean, this is still a web page, a web editor inside a native app or React Native app. But yeah, if you inline the HTML and you ship it with the client, and which is also relevant for security, it boots up really fast, and this is good.
It really just does what it is supposed to be. It's fast and it's encrypted and it takes notes. It's perfect. But I see a lot of opportunity because you made the technology that you use and created open source, like the backend, for example, and the whole encryption technology that others can reuse to build their own encrypted apps.
Yes.
Yeah, do you want to share like the different repositories that you have?
Yeah, sure. So there's basically two main repositories. There's Serenity Notes clients, which includes the app, and then I have a desktop folder referencing app with a symlink. Can you see it here? No, I'm not with a symlink. It's just basically referencing to the folder inside app, the source folder. Because it's just like how React Native, I'm still using Expo, and so like details. But then I can use one code base to generate the mobile clients and the desktop clients. And yeah, this is the clients repository. And this also includes the editor, which is its own project, and then compiled with command into like the vendor folder. And because it's React Native, I had to do a little re-export of YJS. So a little side trick, like sometimes React Native has clunky things they have to work around. But yeah.
Right.
And the other one is Serenity Notes backend. Let me actually do this here. And here, recently I added the backend. It uses Prisma to connect to a Postgres database. And then there's all the, there's a GraphQL API using Nexus. And then you have plenty of GraphQL queries and mutations and so on to actually send the data. And the backend, I mean, the backend does some work to protect clients from getting access to data which they should not have access. But in the end, like, I probably could share the whole backend data, and because in the end everything is in, like, it's more or less just a messaging or a transport layer, transport backend, say, like relaying encrypted nodes. And so even if, I mean, there's still plenty of metadata. So if you know a user ID, you can figure out like how many nodes this person has and when they did an update and so on. But the content itself is encrypted, and you have like no information, or you can't figure anything out about the content.
I think, yeah, there are different levels of security, especially like in end-to-end encrypted backends. I think it's kind of obvious that in order to authenticate, you need to know something about the users. I will take that as a given. So you authenticate the users, you give them access. You have like access control for different nodes, like you can invite other people.
Yes.
And then you share the content of a node, right? And the content of a node, that is end-to-end encrypted. That is something that you don't know about, like that you can't even parse.
Exactly.
Right. And how does that work?
Yeah, and there's one thing, one of the principles that I'm trying to follow. It's not always possible, but it's like to make the backend as dumb as possible. Like not dumb, but as that it knows as little as possible about the user. I mean, I still could go a way farther than I do right now, but this is like one of the guiding principles. That is like, and there's also like the client should not implicitly trust the backend. So basically, the backend is not deciding if you add a contact, like is this a contact between, like, is there a relationship, a contact relation between you and me? At no point the backend can dictate that, because right now we have to verify each other first, and that basically establishes this connection, and this connection then again is encrypted and stored in your private info store. So it's again encrypted data. And so the backend, even if the backend would try to like sneak in a contact into a node, it's not possible because you haven't verified that contact, and so you don't accept any of these. It's like I'm thinking about like how to loosen this up, not loosen this up, but like different ways to improve the experience, the user experience. For example, like workspaces, so that you could have for organizations and teams that you basically like have admin of workspaces, and then everything that is in this workspace is automatically shared between the whole group. That's a lot more convenient than everybody else authenticating or like verifying each other. That would be quite cumbersome for larger teams.
Right.
Yeah.
So I know actually very little about end-to-end encryption. I know there's Signal. They do it really well.
Yes,
and
they do.
there was WhatsApp, and they use the same protocol. They did it really well. What is the technology behind that? Like, how does that work? What are the key things that you need to know about end-to-end encrypted protocols?
Well, in the end, maybe like to give a, like I prepared this. I give like a brief heads up, like for people who are not aware of like what end-to-end encryption means. I mean, we touched it, but just to illustrate it one more time, it's like, right there nowadays you have a lot of encryption, and that's really good. So for example, if I have a node with an image or whatnot, and I like, if I use Google Docs or whatever, there is encryption between you and the server. So I can make a change, and between me and the server there's encryption, and you basically you can be very, very certain that nobody is like making a man in the middle attack and tapping into your data and like trying to, or like actually getting this data. And then even if it's like fetched by someone else, so if I make a change in Google Docs, like they can read it, they know how the actual content. And this is called encryption at rest, and this is like the most common pattern nowadays. And then whoever of my other collaborators fetches it, there's again this connection between them is encrypted. And with end-to-end encryption, you basically encrypt it in a way that is like it can only be known between the two participants. So even the server has no idea, well, what's in there. And yeah, there's very different ways. I mean, there's a like end-to-end encryption could be very, very simple. It could be just like one single password that you agree on, and that's it. And then you encrypt it with this password. And the hard part probably though is like how do you like share a password, and then do you use the same password for all your notes and or all your documents and so on. It's like, and what if you want to have a different collaborator on a new document? You need to find a different password, and like it gets all very complicated. And then yeah, basically if you expand that, you get to public private key infrastructure or cryptography, and then if you take it one step further, or like multiple steps further, you get what Signal did with the Signal protocol, and they invented the double ratchet algorithm. And Matrix is also a messaging protocol. They also built in end-to-end encryption, and they created a cryptographic layer called OLM and MAC-OLM. And basically they re-implemented this double ratchet specification. And this is it's kind of a way of like, you first have like public, so you basically agree on like a shared key, and then you generate one-time keys, and then you can create sessions, and with these one-time keys, and within these sessions you have like, it's kind of like a ratchet that turns, and you, with every message you're making another turn, and that gives you certain like very strong properties of like backward and forward secrecy, and yeah, this is already very like super secure. And yeah, this basically like, and if you use one of these libraries, you basically I mean, it adds some complexity because you have to deal with these one-time keys, and you have to figure out what's going on, like how does it work, and understand the background behind it. But once you're there, you can actually create a very secure end-to-end encrypted system. And yeah, Signal, Trevor Paradin, and Maxim Marlinspike, they invented this, and since then a lot of people, and for example also Matrix, are re-implementing this, and then and MAC-OLM is so this is OLM, and then MAC-OLM is another layer on top of it. It's a different cryptographic ratchet, which is like, so OLM you use to exchange basically this secret that you want to share per node, and well, it's per user per node. It's even more complex, but in the end, this allows you to do large sessions with hundreds or even thousands of people, and yeah.
And this is the same technology that Signal uses, but it's not the same libraries that Signal uses, right?
Exactly. Yes. Yeah. Well, Signal doesn't use MAC-OLM. Signal actually only uses OLM to my. But this means like if you're in a group chat, I mean, I only read up on this. I haven't actually checked the code or like I don't know 100% for sure, but from as far as I understood, how it works is like if you're in a group chat and you're sending one message to 10 different people, you basically need to keep 10 different sessions and encrypt it for every person each and send it then. And with Mac OM, you lose a little bit of like security properties, but I mean, this is already very abstract and yeah, this to extent, but then you can encrypt this message once and you can basically have a session that you can share with multiple people. And because it was initiated with OM, you get the security properties are very high again, and yeah, all very nitty-gritty details. And I could talk about this with security people for hours and do philosophy, but it's fantastic. And like on one hand, I mean, it took me months to like get into it. You know, I was coming from I always was very like at university I did all the security challenges and in the mathematics courses I did all the exams on cryptography and so on, and so I was always very interested, but I like really getting hands on. It took me months to like figure everything out, understand it, reverse engineer what is Matrix doing in the element chat, and so on, and reading up on papers and papers and papers and trying to grasp what it does and what it is for here. And I still feel like I'm scratching. Yeah, I don't know, actually. It's very interesting. There's some security people where I feel like, wow, I in terms of cryptography, I know a lot more already. But yeah, then there are people who have like, it's fantastic how much they know.
Yeah, I can imagine, right? It's such a huge topic that nobody wants to think about because it's so complicated. As an application developer, I think it's very recommendable that you spend so much time just making sure that you don't understand what the users are talking about. Like, right? That is what you are essentially doing when you build an end-to-end encrypted backend.
Yes.
You somehow prevent yourself from being able to parse what others do.
Yeah. But
yeah,
there's one thing. This service, like I sleep way better, you know. This is compared to all the other things that I had to operate backend services in my life. Like this is the most relaxing one, because like I mean I take care that there's no data breach to like really I really take care of it. But like even if it would happen, I would, it's like I would feel so much more comfortable, you know.
Right. I mean, what others are doing, what every other application basically does, every note-taking application, they store all these private information in plain text form in a database and actually index it on a central service, which is super scary, right? And you don't know what people do with this data. I know, like, because I worked for so many note-taking apps, I know that a lot of people like to store, for example, Bitcoin wallets in their note-taking application. They like to store like all their secrets. Like it is right. It is just that something that people do and what they feel comfortable with. When they trust the tool, they just store all the information in there. And when there is one bad actor that gets all these information, that is so dangerous.
Yeah, it's really scary. I mean, this was the motivation when I first started out with this. That like I was using and I'm still, for some cases, like my cookbook or so, I still have it in Apple Notes. I'm moving over everything step by step. But yeah, I mean, I had really private, personal notes in there. yeah, I took notes about like thinking about like how to give harsh feedback to people and how to like I wrote it down in a harsh way and then like try to formulate it to like how to say like get the best out of it, that people don't misunderstand it, because it was still good intentions. And it's like if this would have been public, or there's a data breach at Apple or at Google in Google Docs or so, like, I mean, this would be so scary. There's so much I don't know. I mean, as long as you don't do anything illegal, it's like, well, you're pretty good off. But like, still, you know, it's like, yeah, all your private chats. There's a lot of like information that would be probably very uncomfortable
Right.
if it's open. Yeah.
Maybe it's not even a data breach. Maybe it's some bad actor that
Yeah.
listens to the database, that has some kind of service running somewhere, like some secret agency. I know that a lot of them
Yeah,
do it.
that
And
that
especially
could
if you
be.
are a US company that has like US servers starting from a certain size, there's a high probability that they are listening in. And right, with services like yours, you would completely lock everyone out, even yourself. And
Yeah.
while providing the same service that other people, like the same service that Google Docs does, right? But
Yeah.
it's just you lock out the people that shouldn't know about the content. So how far away are we from, well, making this super easy to use? Like me as a starter in cryptography, can I just download your backend and have like everything, like build my application on YJS and make sure that the backend doesn't understand the content?
Um, it's tricky. You know, when you look at the code, it gets quite interesting because in the backend, it never mentions the term node anywhere. From the beginning, maybe how I started out, my initial idea was like, okay, let's right away build an SDK and people should be able to use it. And then I figured, oh well, I myself I have to learn so much more about it, and I have to basically understand it and understand the trade-offs and how should an SDK, like how does the API should look like, and where to where the points where developers, like at what level should they be able to like hook in. Um, and so I'm still like thinking a lot about this SDK, but basically started to focus on Serenity Notes to have a real world case and learn from it. And yeah, so going back to that, like it's still, because it started out with like this idea of an SDK, I called it repository. This is like a storage of encrypted stuff, and you could put any data structure in there. It's like, it's just like um, um, encrypted data. And so it doesn't say node here. So in theory, you could take this and basically you could read up. I documented everything to my best knowledge, and whereas like documented the desired behavior, and then like try to explain the whole protocol with all its background and details and so on and so forth, and how it works. So it's like, I think if you print it on A4 paper, it's like 15 pages or so. Um, you could try to go with it. I think you will have a hard time.
Right.
I think what would need to happen is I would need to make this a service with a clear API documented, and then basically create a client SDK where it's very clear, like this is a function where you encrypt stuff. This is a function how to add a contact. This is how you verify a contact. Because right now, all this, like most of the complex stuff or the hard stuff is actually happening on the client, because the client is the more responsible part. And this right now in Serenity Notes clients is like all over. So to build an SDK and make it somewhat usable, and I would need to like consolidate that to one SDK, and yeah. and
Right.
improve it. I mean, yeah, you could basically fork both of them and change it. And instead of nodes, you could sync data structures that is an array of something, whatever.
I mean,
Yeah,
it's just a YJS document, right? So you can do
yeah,
anything with it.
yeah, yeah. And it doesn't even, like, if you don't like YJS, like, go with whatever CRDT you like and put it there. I mean, yes, then you have to change the decryption function, because there is it's not there's this decryption function, and then basically this takes the existing YJS document and then applies the new changes. I'm using this diff functionality that YJS has, and yeah, and you would need to replace these parts, but in theory, yeah, you could take this and go with it. Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
I mean, I know like a lot of projects that build their whole complete application based on YJS state synchronization, and then they just synchronize it somehow. And something that I really like about YJS is that you can switch from one network provider to another. Like you can easily use like pure WebSockets and then switch to WebRTC, because for some reason it doesn't matter if your application is built on YJS documents. You don't care how the network looks like. So my hope is that eventually I can just switch to an encrypted backend, to Serenity Notes backend, and just have that encrypted. Of course, in that case, I also need to do like user management and how do I invite people into my, well, my document basically. But this seems all solvable. And yeah, you can basically fork Serenity Notes and build your own drawing application or whatever. Use a different editor. Yeah, the options are really limitless.
Yes, yes. Yeah, I mean, I hope in a couple of years we can simplify to a point where it's really, where it's a no-brainer.
Right.
And I mean, the only downsides, there's like a handful of things. Like I had a call recently with a medical healthcare startup, and we basically discussed, like, they want to send out reminders, like, for example, when you need to vaccinate again, for certain vaccination, but then like if you encrypt the data when you have been vaccinated last and with what, then the backend doesn't know, so it can't send out reminders. You can still like have like a notification triggered from the client side, or if you open the app or so. But the thing is, yeah, it becomes, there are certain limitations, and this is also one important thing, is like, I think end-to-end encryption will not be a good case for everything, but for a lot of data where it makes sense. Yeah, but yeah, if you want to have like rely on an external service that runs to encrypt your data, to send you notifications and so on, then you basically need to give them your data, otherwise you can't get around it. Yeah.
Right, makes sense.
But maybe there could be other ways. You could just like, and then I haven't thought about this, but like, instead of like giving the information what you need to do, what vaccine you need to get, you could just tell them like, hey, send me an email in 2 months, or in 3 years, and don't even tell me, like, just tell me that I need to open my app, and then in the app you will see what you need to do. So it's like, yeah, but these are things, these are trade-offs. There's like, I don't know, this has to be, when creating an SDK, this all has to be probably explained as well, because it is a lot of, like, it's a different way of thinking about it, for a lot of cases. Yeah.
That's
And
maybe that's the future. Okay, talk.
There's one more thing that like that I recently saw, like, also someone like working on end-to-end encryption, and basically in there you could share images, but not images in terms of you upload them and they're encrypted, but you could just share a link to an external image. And like in a normal, like, I don't know, in Google Docs, it's like well, it could also be problematic now that I think about it. But there's one point is like when you tell your end-to-end encrypt data, but then you let people put a link there. This basically makes people trackable again, you know?
Right.
And yeah, it's still end-to-end encrypted, but it makes you trackable. And then it's like a lot of the privacy parts or the privacy properties are not there anymore. And
Right.
yeah, it's really fascinating how like little things can have a huge impact on how you think about it. So it's a tough topic, but it's fun.
Yeah, even in your case, right? If I as a user include an image like in Serenity Notes,
Yeah.
and that image links to some web service that maybe you maintain or somebody else that Google maintains,
Yes.
then like every time this image is opened, somehow like Kevin and Nick are currently collaborating with each other on Serenity Notes because they both opened this link, right? So there's a common interest there.
Yes.
Right? This connects people, and this allows you to build a graph of people, extract some meta information.
Yeah.
You can feel differently about this, but I think it's really cool that you think about this stuff.
Yeah. There's like that's why, for example, I have an RFC on attachments, which talks about these things. It's actually in Serenity Notes clients, and then here it's still a little bit rough, but yeah, has some good insights already. And I should update it. Because I now know even more and how to encrypt it and so on. But basically, there's like, yeah, exactly as you said. And the good thing is you can learn from the best, or like from some, because you can check out what does Signal, for example, do. So if you paste the link and you send it to someone else, and I receive it, or even if I put it in there, I think. You get to ask, do you want to see a preview of this? And so, yes, it's not totally clear about the implications. So maybe this could be explained even more in detail. But I was thinking like, let's say you want to reference a Figma document or a Figma, I don't know what they call it. Yeah, probably Figma document in your own node. I do this a lot in like. When working with other people, we directly link to a certain design from an issue or so, or from a document. You could still have the link in there, and you could still even show the preview, but you can say like, hey, like when opening the node, do you want to actually see the preview or see the embed, and give the people the choice instead of like just loading everything all the time. And yeah, because then people who care about and are aware can actually choose what to do with it. And so there's, I mean, the downside is it adds a lot of like, it basically outsources complexity or a choice to the user. But yeah, when you care, you probably want to have that choice.
Yeah, I think I never thought about this stuff, and I was always annoyed that Thunderbird always asks me, like I had to turn on some option to always display the images in my mails. And now I understand why they didn't display these images, because these images make like your emails trackable. So another peer knows that I read their email because I opened a certain image that has a certain parameter set on the image. And
oh yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
I mean, that is, from a certain perspective, it's really cool because now you know that some peer opened your email, but also I don't want other people to know that I opened their email sometimes, right? Then we get into this weird issue, right? Like in WhatsApp, where people see you read their email and why didn't you respond in time or something? Interesting.
Yeah, there's a lot of, I mean, for email, this is even like I think this is known since 15 years in terms of like providers offer this tracking pixel. So they just, you send an email and they just insert something, and yeah. But then the interesting thing is like, I don't know, some provider last year started to do this. and like insert a tracking pixel in every email, and then other providers explicitly blocked only this tracking pixel. And so there's like, it's a continuous, it's interesting for email because it's an open protocol, and there's no like red information. So people try to work around it. And yeah, then you have like, you can, yeah, you can prevent it. And
Right.
yeah, it's really fascinating.
Super cool stuff.
Yeah.
Hey, before, like, we talked for quite a while now. I thought we would do like 20-minute talks, and now we are
Yeah.
at least 30.
We can have
40
another
minutes.
session another time, maybe.
Absolutely. But just one last thing that I wanted to ask you about is, how does YGS integrate, or like in general, how are CRDTs one way to solve collaborative editing in end-to-end encrypted, well, backends basically? How did you make that work?
So this is basically, yeah, this is a problem, let me say, because what I do right now is what I would call good enough, but not efficient protocol. So basically what I do at the moment is I take the whole document.
Maybe first, explain what can the protocol do, because I know,
yeah,
like, the protocol understands messages. I can send messages to other peers and store
yes.
them somehow in the backend in some kind of order. But how did you make that work to enable collaborative editing?
Yeah, sure. So what it does is, yeah, basically every time I'm making a change in a node, so I if I type something here, at the moment, the whole document is a YGS document, and I use the yeah, I bring it into, was it base64? I think base64 format, and then encrypted. And basically then for this user, this document is, this is the latest state, and this is stored, that basically like Kevin here stored this document, and this is his latest version. And then if we have another user chain, chain at the moment is basically fetching from everyone who's collaborator on this node, fetching that document, and with YGS, because with CRDTs, you can basically get these different version documents, and you can just merge them all together, and you get the latest state. And if everyone does that, that's the beauty of what I meant in the beginning with, like, you can resolve all the conflicts and all the data on the client. You just merge these all together, and if everyone does it, everybody has the same state. And that's the beauty of it. The downside is it's a little bit inefficient. Like, it's good enough if you don't have like 100-page documents or notes, then this is like, is completely fine. But I'm already thinking about improvements of the protocol, that you could say, I have snapshots. So somebody could take a snapshot and then like do smaller messages just for like smaller parts, or do diffs to the snapshot and then take another snapshot. So it could be a combination just to like reduce download and decryption time. And but this probably needs a whole like research month on just like doing benchmarks and what would be more efficient download time versus decryption time, and yada yada yada, and like figuring out yeah. There's like, the thing is, it's working, and it's working beautifully, because yeah, CRDTs and especially YJS, like the API is so nice and easy. You just get these documents, combine them, and you're done. And that's it. Yeah. And everyone gets the same result. This is the beauty of it.
Right. Yeah, it's really cool. Like, the way you use YGS is basically like a state-based CRDT, where you always
Yes.
get the complete state from the other users and then apply the complete state on your local state. And YGS has this property that you can always merge documents, and basically you discard duplicate information, like there is some content that you already have, and then you just apply the differences. That is something really, and now you want to improve this by only sending the diffs.
Yes.
But in some intervals, you need to send the complete document. Why is that?
I don't necessarily need to, but the idea is that basically if I encrypt every character, like the encryption adds a lot of like overhead, you know. If I encrypt one character, there's like several, like dozens of bytes you know, you have, because it's this double ratchet, you have the next key information and so on and so forth. And there's like, and also like if you encrypt A, you don't get like 1 byte back, it's more. And so the idea is that yeah, you can basically tackle this overhead and also decryption time. You know, if you get like if I would have a snapshot and then have 200 messages that I have to decrypt, that might take 10 seconds. But if I can take another snapshot and say, hey, I like downloading and decrypting the snapshots is actually faster and only takes 5 seconds, then this would be more efficient. And this is what I mean with benchmarks. You basically would need to figure out like I mean, this also depends on encryption, on the actual encryption algorithms and or the crypto library and so on. And then are you doing this in ASM.js WebAssembly or on native? And yeah, this means it would need some benchmarks, but basically like it works, but yeah, there's room for improvement for edge cases where we have super large documents with plenty of changes and so on. One thing that I want to mention what makes YJS especially very interesting is tombstones. So basically if I mean, you know more about this, but if I'm removing content, the content is not anymore in the history of YJS if I have garbage collection turned on. So basically, there's very little overhead for like if you have a document that is very long living, and this is very nice. Why I can do these snapshots, because I like if I have a document that is very long living, it doesn't grow a lot. It doesn't have the full history. I mean, that's the downside. You need to manually, if you want to show a history, you need to like take snapshots and do this manual in a different way. But then on the other hand, it's like efficient for long living documents or long living data sets. And the second part, and that's what I love about it, it also has an impact on privacy. Because now if I add you, like we share a node now, but if I add Anna now to this node, she knows some meta information, like there was something, but she can't figure out the past of the history. And this is like very important because, you know, if I remove something from a document, a lot of people, like if I remove something in a Word or Google Docs document, I've seen this, people manipulating the document and then adding people. And it's like, wow, you shouldn't have done this. You should make a new document and reshare it. But not give them access to the full history if you don't intend to. Yeah. And there's an implicit privacy impact with tombstones. Yeah.
Yeah, that is actually true. So basically when you have garbage collection turned off in YJS, you can recover the complete history of all the edit operations. And when you inserted some kind of link or information that you didn't want to share, there's no way to extract it if you have garbage collection turned off. So once you inserted your password, you can delete it, but I will still be able to recover it if I understand the YJS document protocol, right? But yeah, with garbage collection, of course, the content is basically set to an empty space, and we just store the length of content that was inserted. That is interesting. That is an argument against other CRDT implementations that specifically don't have a garbage collection implementation.
Yeah.
For security reasons, for privacy reasons, it is a good thing to have garbage collection. That is good. That is really good. Thanks for that.
Sure, anytime. I mean, yeah, I already heard the counter argument that like just make it explicit in the user interface and that should be good enough. But yeah, there's different ways to approach it. Yeah.
Right. I mean, and YJS gives you the option. You can have it turned on or off, or like it is really up to you. But it's certainly something that I actually haven't thought about too much. And it is true for Google Docs that, right, you see the complete history of changes nicely visualized, and you don't need to be an OT or CRDT expert in order to understand the versioning.
Yeah.
It is a bit more complex for CRDTs,
but
still possible. All right. Thanks so much for sharing all of this. This is awesome. Check out Serenity Notes, like everyone who's still listening. Check out Serenity Notes on Android and iPhone, and download the app. It's really cool. And also check out Nik's repositories. His work is really awesome. And we are looking to build a funding organization that Nik will be part of. So you can fund this project, so he can work on his open source work, not for free, but for decent pay. This is how we want to sustain all of this ecosystem. And certainly YJS has grown, and the ecosystem has grown substantially in the last 2 years. So I want to make more people motivated. Please share this content. And next time, we have AMA meetings and demo meetings, like these community meetings, every Thursday, 6 p.m. CET. And looking forward to see you there.
Awesome. Okay. Thanks for having me today.
Yeah, thanks for being here. Awesome.
Awesome.